Thank you, everyone. Welcome to another episode, the webinar for the Special Operations Medic Coalition. Today, we have joining us members of the Honor Foundation, Mike Halterman. He is the Vice President of Operations at the Honor Foundation. He's a Marine Corps veteran and a Raider, serving his time with 1st Marine Special Operations Battalion. He took part in multiple deployments, training, and exercises between 2007 and 2018. Also joining us is Chris Bannister, another Raider, an alumni of THF, and the director now of THF at the Camp Lejeune campus. So I want to kick it over to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to get it out of the way and just say I'm a huge advocate of the Honor Foundation. It's a big part of what we hear in the special operations community, and a great resource. And I'm so happy to have you guys on board. So please take it away.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Really good to be here. And I'll start with our mission statement. We serve others with honor for life, so their next mission is clear and continues to impact the world. See, we don't think that your time in service is over just because you leave uniform, right? You still have so much more to give. It's just going to be on a different in a different team, in a different place, and it's going to look a little bit different. But you're still going to have the opportunities to do many, many more great things with many more years of your life. And so we know at THF that because we've experienced it, both Chris and myself and quite a few of the other employees here have experienced firsthand how hard it is to transition out of the military, but especially out of special operations. It's even harder. So you spend so much time heads down, really focusing on the mission, and you don't see what else is going on out there around you. And so what we really act is as a bridging function to take you from what you don't know into and making things that you don't know yet familiar to you so that you can start making better decisions about your transition. One of the misnomers is that we're going to drive you towards corporate or to a specific company or even place you somewhere. We don't do any of those things. We help you build a framework of decision-making skills so you can find success wherever you decide to go. That could be in the trades, that could be going into furthering yourself in higher education. That might be corporate. It might be starting your own thing, maybe even a nonprofit, taking care of your brothers, who knows? But really what we want to do is help you build a framework of decision-making skills, like I said, to be able to execute what you want to do next. And so what does that look like? So we're a 3-month course. And right off the top, that sounds really long, but it took you 3 months just to get into the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, or the Marine Corps, right? Boot camp is no small feat in itself. And a 1-week course at TAP or SFL TAP or whatever your branch of service is calling it is not enough to help you transition mentally out of the years of indoctrination that you've been giving yourself, whether that's 10 to 30 years. So yes, it's 3 months, it's long. At no cost to you though, there is no charge to you. And we're looking for special operations individuals, right? We're a very small foundation at the end of the day, and we have a finite amount of assets, and we choose to take care of, and we're absolutely laser focused on those in the special operations community. And so over 3 months, we help you build a framework of decision-making tools, and we help you communicate yourself better. And that starts with month 1, phase 1, the crawl phase. And in the crawl phase, usually most of you are going to show up thinking, I need to do a resume, I need to learn how to do LinkedIn, and I need to know who's in your network. But before we start talking about any of that, the first thing we actually need to do is help you figure out who you are when you no longer have a rank, when you no longer have a title, and you no longer have all of those things that were kind of like the automatic credentials when you walked in the room. Literally, who are you? Who is Michael? Who is Chris? Who is Justin? Without all of the other things. And being able to articulate that intelligently so that non-military folks, right, those good civilian peoples, can understand that. So phase 1 is a lot of self-discovery. And then once we get you through that, then it's much easier to go into phase 2, month 2, and then start filling out things like resumes, like developing your LinkedIn, like filling out, a resume, maybe even an application to a company and all of those things, because now you have a better understanding of yourself and you have a better understanding of how to articulate yourself to others and what is your value to a future potential employer. And so that then takes us into phase 3. And phase 3 is really all about exposing you to opportunity. And so again, we're not trying to push you in any one direction. And in phase 3, we want to make sure that you've seen as many different opportunities as possible. So some of those opportunities and the way we expose you to that is we'll bring in some alumni and maybe some guys and gals who are 3 months to maybe 3 years ahead of you, and they can kind of tell you that next fight that you're going to kind of go through, right? Like, what is next? What does it look like to get in the hiring funnel? And at different types of companies, tech, manufacturing, finance, the finance industry, maybe a small startup company. And we try and give you lots of different industries to look at. And then we'll bring in another group of people that's going to be, they may or may not be veterans. They may or may not have any exposure to special operations, and they're going to be somewhere, they've been in the workforce anywhere from 5 to 20 years. And then they can give you a really good look of what it looks like once you've been in a career field for a while. And then after that, we're going to expose you to some more people who absolutely probably don't have any connection with the military and are just good Americans who want to help. And so what that does is, again, exposes you to lots of different companies, lots of different opportunities. And what you're looking for is not money, it's actually culture. It's the same reason that you decided to take a set of orders to go the SF route, the Ranger route, the PJ route, whatever that route was for you, or SOIDC at MARSOC, or any of the various directions you took. You were attracted to culture. There was a certain something about that culture that you thought to yourself, I could see myself there doing that, and that really interests me. And so in the end, really, we're trying to expose you to lots of different cultures and in different ways that companies present themselves, because they all have a little bit different culture. And so I rambled for a bit. Chris, what would you like to expand on?
Well, I mean, that was a fantastic rundown, Mike. Halty, I don't, there's a lot that the Honor Foundation did for me. And I think the part that resonated most with me was the self-discovery. I'm someone that, I'm a learner. I can do anything. I know I can do anything when you step out of the uniform, I guess, like I did earlier today. It's what am I going to do? But for me, back in January, when I was going through the program, I come to realize, whether or not you believe it or not, but as an active duty service member, you start to become institutionalized. You get comfortable in the position you're in. And for years and years, you watch it going on around you. You watch talent management, we call it, right? But it's really a square peg, round hole. I need a guy, move here. And then, you're square, but they're pushing in the round hole. So you're I guess, wearing it down a little bit, right? Changing it. And that's not a bad thing. We all learn, grow, and develop from those things. But years and years and years of square peg, round hole means, what am I doing next? I don't know. I'm going to be told what I'm doing, right? And then you're unhappy, so on and so forth. But it's the nature of the beast. That's what the enterprise is there for. It's mission first, troop welfare second, right? So with us, with the Honor Foundation, what I found going through was I wasn't second. The mission wasn't second. I was first, right? For once. And you go through TRS when you're going through this process. I just went through that. Many others have gone before me have done it, and they've probably punched in their 4-digit military occupational specialty into the translator. For me, as an 0372, I could be one of two things. I mean, primarily a security guard or a police officer, maybe a firefighter or something like that. But I remember those two things stuck out to me, and I was like, that's not the answer. That's not right. So some people that went before me told me about the Honor Foundation. They highly recommended it, so I hopped in. So talking about that, again, going back to the part that resonated most with me, and that's focusing on yourself. And that's the phase 1. they talk to you about prioritizing what's important to you, discovering yourself and what really intrinsically motivates you to become the person you want to be, right? Because now it's that time in your life where you can choose and you're not the square peg going in a round hole. And then they tell you how to interpret your skills. They focus on the top 5 skills through some of the assessments that come through. And, they pair you with coaches. And, I found that the coach relationship was hugely valuable to me. And it helped me strategize my approach to, finding the next job, right? Back when I joined the military, it was submit a resume and wait for a response. And there's a lot of strategies, though. There's a lot of different strategies that the coaches can work with you through. But I think using the skills that you have and the approach that you've picked up throughout the years in the community, I'd call it the operational approach, you can certainly apply all those skills moving forward into your next chapter, or the rest of your life. So when I'm interviewing people, when they come through, I tell them, this is, phase 3 is like your workup. We call it, like, you get your skills and then your workup. So it's arguably the most important workup of your life. So because it's, the last workup, I guess, for the rest of your life. So I think guys do really well when they come in with an open mind. But even if they come in and they know exactly what they want to do, if they're like the rest of us that have gone through, been assessed and selected for these things, we have a certain, I guess, pile of characteristic traits that we're hard to deny when we have our head on something we want to do, right? But if you keep your eyes open, situational awareness, and you look around, the opportunities are there. And I think that is what the Honor Foundation does, in addition to professionalizing and preparing you, that you get in the second and third phases. But it really opens your eyes up to the opportunities that are out there and gives you the confidence that you need and the ability, perspective, if you will, to understand how to translate your skills into whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike, you got anything to add? And I'll actually throw a couple questions here if you guys are. I think you're muted, Mike.
Sorry. So Chris brought up some really good points, and I'll reiterate is throughout the entire 3-month course, we're going to pair you 1-to-1 with a coach. Most of our coaches are good Americans who have been working in the civilian sector for anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 years, maybe even longer. And they're going to give you a civilian perspective on how well or how not well you are communicating, both through your resume, through your LinkedIn, how you're doing it, progressing with your personal pitch. And then they're going to use their business acumen to help you kind of narrow down, hopefully, to what it is you might want to do next. And if they don't know, that's okay, because we also do coaching by committee. We have lots of coaches from lots of different industries. And so if my coach was Chris, and Chris did manufacturing for 30 years, but I have no interest in coaching, Chris knows the other coaches. And if I say I want to go to tech, he's going to reach out to Katie and then put me in contact with Katie. And then I get to have a conversation with another coach, which is a great way to kind of help you work through 3 months of curriculum and still be very personal down to what you need. So if all 4 of us, say on the screen right now, we're transitioning, we're all from the same command, all the things might look the same, but all 4 of us are having completely different transition experiences. So a couple of us might have a couple of kids and be wanting to move to a certain geographical location and have a certain desire to be in a certain industry, whereas another one of us, may not have kids whatsoever and is looking at, living abroad for a couple of years before even jumping into the workforce. So we understand that, over the 3 months, we're covering down on a lot of the broad range of skills that you need, but we're also getting very specific and individual to every single individual's needs by pairing you with that coach. Along the way, we're also going to ask you to do some things that are kind of uncomfortable, like tell stories. Telling stories is really all about just communicating with others. We're going to do that a bunch in the crawl phase. And then by the end of it, kind of looking at it, in the context of a workup framework, by the end of it, you're able to tell the right story in the right context at the right time. It's not just war stories, but it's really the translation of your experiences and knowledge and how that relates to business or relates to getting into grad school, or how that relates to starting your own company, or how that relates to ... whatever that happens to be next for you. It really is about, it's a lot of storytelling. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we do that's an overview. There's a lot more depth to it, but that's a good overview.
No, that's great. That's awesome. So I guess kind of some of the questions really is how does somebody get enrolled or get involved and get started at the Honor Foundation? What is it? Are there any kind of prerequisites? And then one part is, what kind of attitude are you expecting, or kind of like mindset coming into it? What should they expect whenever they come into it? How should they get themselves ready for this?
Yeah, prerequisites are really easy. Be in special operations, be at a special operations command. Much, it's very straightforward for someone who's a badged SEAL, a ranger with a scroll, a tabbed guy who's done the long walk and all of those things. If you're an SOIDC at a special operations command, pretty straightforward. Jump on honor.org/apply. That's honor.org/apply. Or if you just remember honor.org, jump on the website, fish around. There's a ton of information on there. And then look at the apply button on the right-hand side, click that, and then go through the application. Couple, side notes on the application are, please do it from a home computer. The SOCOM server gives it a ton of problems. So do it from a home computer. Use your personal civilian email. So, big tough frogman at, getatme.com, whatever that looks like. And fill it out to the best of your ability, right? We're not looking for long essays, but there are sections where we offer the opportunity for you to really tell us who you are. And so there's a couple sections on there that are 250 up to 250 words. And the more information you provide us, the better and the easier it's going to be for us to understand who you are. And we really want to understand you. Back to Chris's analogy of square peg, round hole. We want to know who you are, and we're going to find that square insertion point for you. And the more we know, that the easier it'll be, right? So fill that out as thoroughly as possible. Hit enter at the end, and then give it a little bit of time. Give us time. We're a really small staff, and we're starting to get a lot more applications coming in. So it'll take us a little while to get back to you. If you don't hear anything, in about 30 days, don't hesitate to reach back out and say, hey, did you get my application? Is there anything else you need from us? But you should get something right away that gives you the rest of the information, which is, we need 2 letters of recommendation, one from someone, like a team leader or a commander or an SEA who's just above you, and then someone who's a peer. So basically 2 letters of recommendation, one from each, that just lets us know that you're a good dude who's served honorably in your community, and that you're a good fit for this program. And then after that, we're looking for a resume. And that scares a lot of guys right away, because there's about 1 million different looks at resumes. Don't worry, just pick one off the internet, or if you've got one going already, just use that and submit that with the rest of the information requested. After that, again, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you should start getting some correspondence from one of our amazing coordinators, and they'll start letting you know if there's anything else that needs to be done. They'll get you lined up for an interview, and then you're going to do an interview. So if you think about the process I just told you about, it sounds a lot like getting hired, right? Like, you do an application, you do some letters of recommendation, you submit your application, and you do an interview. That's by design. We're building into the process and trying to get you used to something you're going to be doing inherently in the coming months or the coming year anyway, right? So it's part of the process. It's by design. After the interview, you'll get racked and stacked, and then you will get some correspondence thereafter letting you know that we were able to accept you in the next cohort, or maybe a cohort later on, based off of your separation dates, how full the cohort is, so on and so forth. Because we do group guys in groups of about 30, no more than 40. Because once you get over 40, you get into those, just like every school we've been to, if there's too many students and not enough instructors, not everyone gets to ask questions. It doesn't get to that one-on-one granularity that guys are looking for. So we do try and cap it at 40. Again, also by design. So a little bit long-winded. I hope that answers the first part. And anything else we want to tease apart across that before we go to the second part? Chris, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I would just circle back around and say the most important thing you do is just go to honor.org and look at it, check it out, watch the videos, see the testimonials, and then talk to the people that are around you that are already alumni. And then apply early, apply as early as possible, because that's going to put you on the radar.
Yeah, so application timeline, that's a great point. If you got out yesterday, hit apply. If you've got time, we would love to see your application come in somewhere between, I think the website probably reads 12 to 18 months right now. But what I would also offer is if you were thinking actively of doing a skills bridge, reach out to us at about the 24-month mark, and then be able to articulate in your interview that you're lining up the skills bridge. We also understand that you've got to do the big Army, big Navy, big Marine Corps, big Air Force transition seminars and things as well. And then also be able to get into one of our cohorts. But right around the 18-month mark is probably the sweet spot for most guys. But if you've got less time than that, hit apply like tonight, and let's get in contact and have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to guys that they still have a deployment to go, right? They're leaving on a deployment, but they've got everything in to attend the Honor Foundation when they return, right? And that's important because had they not done that or done it when they're forward or at a later time, then that really compresses the timeline, and it's really hard for them to get the one arm's distance, if you will, from the building, and to set themselves up from the work environment to where they have enough time and family expectations too, right? We never think about our families. They're always last, and that's wrong. They know that, that's for them to prioritize with their families, but we don't. They're part of the process. They're part of the transition process. So the earlier you do that, the more you can forecast for everyone. Just back plan.
So Chris, another really great point there on the front end of what you said was, it kind of brings up how we serve and when we serve people. So right now we're kicking off all of our fall cohorts. It'll be the final cohort for this year. So all 5 campuses, and the fact that we have 5 campuses is important to all of you, because we have a campus in San Diego, one in Virginia Beach, one in Camp Lejeune area, and the one that just opened we're super excited about, which is the Fort Bragg, North Carolina as well. So we're starting to grow roots in more of the community. It is for the entire SOCOM community. We are trying to get to absolutely everybody. We're in really good conversations with a couple other ODA groups in their geographic locations, to include the 160th. So we're trying to get to everybody, to include our 5th campus, which is the virtual campus. So if you are downrange and you have a super tight timeline, but you have a Wi-Fi connection and you can be on Zoom just like this 2 nights a week for about a 3-hour block, we can help you get through this curriculum. There's been a motivated ranger or two sitting in at Siege SOTF forward, doing classes with me in virtual back when I was doing the virtual director thing. And then we've even had, a guy in Sigonella, or no, excuse me, not Sigonella, but in at least one in Italy out of one of the embassies, one in Eastern Europe, in the Eastern Europe block somewhere. So it is possible worldwide. We can get to you. Yeah. And then I apologize. We talked a bunch, so I forgot the second part of that question.
No, you crushed it. That was a big part of it. I think the other part I was going to say was, that attitude for somebody applying, like what should they be kind of getting in the mindset? Because as I look over the application, there's some pretty tough questions that I think as individuals in the special operations community, we really don't ask ourselves or get asked too many times, like, who were you before you joined? Even just why do you want to attend? Like that's a kind of a difficult question to answer. It's not just like, oh, I'm transitioning, I want to get out, but how should they look at, going into the Honor Foundation and doing this?
Yeah, great question. So, we're tough dudes, right? We go away to schools, we show up on TAD to school, and everyone's doing this. And you're trying to be the guy who's furthest back in the classroom, saying the least, playing the gray man, right? And I call it the closed-minded skeptic, right? You've got to prove to me that I'm here, you're the right instructor, and that this is a good school, right? Even though you've talked to guys who have already graduated the school, you still got that like closed-minded skepticism. What I would offer is it is really a great time to practice the opposite side of that coin, which is open-minded optimist. And if you come in with an open-minded optimistic, so I'm not asking you to trust me, and I hate the old adage, just trust the process. Don't do that, but have an open-minded view of it, and just take in the information and see how it applies to you. And when you start getting asked really tough questions, that might feel like tough questions to you in the application, there are going to be more tough questions that we're going to ask you. And they're things that you need to grapple with. And they're things that, as Chris brought up earlier, you need to grapple with your family, because this is the final mission that you're on together. And it's the first time where it affects you and the family in a whole different way. So I think, open-minded and optimistic, you will get much, much better result faster if you do that.
I would, if I can add, I would say that for the guy who doesn't have a family, right, or the gal that doesn't have a family that's going through, or anyone, you're conditioned, right? You're conditioned. You've been in the military for a long time, and you're not being assessed based on your answers, right? This is giving us insight into you, into your thought process, into your values. So, and also it's planting seeds inside of you. So maybe 3 days later, 4 days later, you're thinking about, I think I answered that this way, but maybe I would change my answer. But it starts the gerbil running, if you will. I would just say that you're not being assessed, and just be yourself, because ultimately that's what the starting point is. If you can start with yourself, then you're going to get the most out of the program.
No, I think that's awesome. So you brought up a good point there, and Mike, you said something earlier that I thought was pretty important, and it's you're not being assessed, and be yourself. And you talked about, Mike, basically finding out what your value is. So that's really that. Can you speak a little more about that and like the phase 1 process, so that people know? Because I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of us. Is I'm not just a medic, I'm not just an operator. What's my value on the outside? Who am I as a person? And how do I wrap my head around that?
Yeah, it's tough, right? And there's probably a percentage of the community is like just tired of seeing dudes naked from the waist down. And there's probably a percentage of the community who's like, I still want to help, but again, I'm tired of seeing dudes naked from the waist down, right? And dealing with all the funky stuff. So, you don't have to stay in the medical field if it's not your passion, right? I mean, special operations ruined free fall for me. I don't want to free fall or swim a long way ever again. So I think I kind of get it, right? Because I hear a lot of my brothers in the medical field say that. So how do you assess your value and then articulate it? More importantly, how do you articulate it back to somebody so they can make a critical judgment on a piece of paper, and the person sitting in front of them, about how their 10, 20, 30 years of experience in special operations relates to their company, and how their company has to do 4 things. And here's like a big key takeaway from all of this. Every company, regardless of what kind of company it is, regardless of the structure, has to do 4 things: make money, save money, reduce risk, and save time. Every company has to do that. So if you can relate how your experiences have done that, and trust me, all of you have done that in your military experience. You've managed huge training budgets, so in excess of millions of dollars. You've managed large numbers of assets, when you start thinking about the all the medical equipment, the guns, the ammo, all the things, way in excess of tens of millions of dollars. And you've actually led people during critical events, let alone an office fire scenario where the copier doesn't work. Like, you can handle that, right? Not a big deal. So it's really about translating that over and understanding that it's not so much that you have an SOIDC certificate, it's what you were able to learn and do during that time period with those skills and how that relates to business. And we spend a lot of time, again, telling stories and helping you cultivate how to tell the appropriate story in the right context at the right time. And just kind of like I gave that short example, is every company can wrap their head around money. And if you can show that you've managed millions of dollars in assets, and you can say the number of people you've led for a certain duration of time while simultaneously moving things logistically throughout the nation or across multiple continents on a timeline, I mean, that's making money, saving money, and reducing risk. I mean, you're coming in top 3, no problem.
So I'll add to it, since that's the kind of the flow of the conversation. I would say that the only way you can really show a company or show an employer or show anyone really your value is through communication, right? So your communication is going to get sharper. How does it get sharper? It's like when you learn a language, right? You're going to learn their language. They're going to learn your language. At least there's going to be a small bridge gap, right? Where you're not going to talk in all acronyms the whole time you're talking to them, but you're going to get some quality coaching and training, if you want to call it that, on how to properly communicate so that they understand what your value is. One, and two, you're going to, in order for them to understand the value, you have to understand something about that industry, that company, their culture, what they're looking for. And then you're going to be able to take those things and use the examples through storytelling, as Halty said, and showcasing your traits and characteristics that you have that you're going to bring to their company, right? So that's both sides of the coin with that. Like, not only are you going to learn the language, or I think Halty said it previously, like a dialect, right? Because it's all English, right? I mean, but the dialect that they use and the way that they speak and the words that they're choosing to use are important for you to understand, because just because they say, tell me about a time when attention to detail was important at work, that doesn't mean the same thing. That's not necessarily the question, if that makes sense, right? So understanding that is a huge part of the learning curve, one. And two, how do you take that question and answer it in a way that is going to show them the desirable character traits that they're looking for? So I think that's a big part of showing your value. I would say until you can communicate on the same plane or near same plane, it's really hard to show someone what your value is. And that's kind of in life, but in this relationship, employer employee sort of I guess relationship, for lack of better terms, that's key and very important to showcasing your value.
No, that's a great point. I think that you guys hit it, and that's really important. And I guess to follow up to that, so in the phase 3, where you start getting guys and gals exposure to these opportunities, what are some of the, I guess when you start looking at some of these companies and talking to these people, one, what's some of the feedback that you've been getting from those companies with the people they've been interacting with? And then two, kind of how do people feel they kind of, like, how do they go to the next step? Do they have to gain more skills to get into those opportunities, or are they just looking for you as, like, as an operator, as a medic, hey, you have, like you were saying, you have great product management skills. You have, you can lead a team, you can do these things, and are guys getting offers and transitioning to those things? Like, where does, what happens at that point?
Yeah, I would say the feedback is overwhelmingly positive. The people that come in inherently want to help, right? They're volunteering their time, and they want to do something for service members who they may have no contact with. And this is their opportunity to kind of serve, give back, and have some sort of, relationship with the military they may not even know, right? So you're going to get some critical feedback. We do that by design as well. So we do mock interview night, and mock interview night, it's pretty horrifying at first. I'm going to be honest, right? We're going to make you do 5 mock interviews in one night. It's a little bit like speed dating. And so you're going to do about a 30-minute interview. 20 minutes of that is going to be you saying who you are and being able to walk through the interview process. And then 10 minutes of that is going to be some pretty critical feedback from a hiring professional that this is all they've done. So they're really good at it, right? And they're going to give you some critical feedback. None of it is designed to cut you down or any of that, but it's designed to help you iterate quickly and then move on to the next interview with new skills. And so, case in point, my hands were a sweaty mess. I was fidgeting a ton on my very first mock interview. The sweat pumps were on full blast. I was sweating through my suit. I was stumbling over my words. I was using the wrong vocabulary. I started relying on acronyms that I was comfortable with. I got very critical feedback. And some of that feedback was, "Hey, dude, calm down. Like, you know how intimidated I am? You've been a Marine for 20 years, or you've been an X for 20 years. Like, I'm 23. Like, you've been doing this for, almost as long as I've been alive." And then, like, you kind of dial it back, right? And then so I got some, critical feedback on my vocabulary and a couple of other things. And then round 2, round 3, and by round 5, I felt really comfortable, very smooth. And I got really good feedback by the 5th interview. That set me up for my phase 3 when I went through, and I was able to really have good conversations. And so, stepping away from my own personal experience and going back to what I mentioned earlier, overwhelmingly, companies are giving us really good feedback, and they're very interested in the talent pool that we are consistently producing year after year. And we're starting to get, big notable companies who are wanting to create long-term relationships with THF because they know the quality of individual and leader and agile thinker who's coming through these cohorts. And so, to rattle off and name drop a couple of them, we just had Oracle here at the San Diego campus a couple of days ago, massive multi-billion-dollar company, but maybe not as well known. But you've also, we have alumni and people interested at Google, at Apple, at Tesla, at SpaceX, and many, many others. And I'm just rattling off the ones that are in headlines most often, but there's a lot of others too, Amazons and LinkedIn's and so on. Chris, anything else to add to that?
Well, I can add to that briefly with, there's a lot of people that decide to be entrepreneurs as well. We don't, if that's what someone desires to do, we'll set those guys up for success as well. I would say, to answer your question, what do they do to take the next step? How do you get there? I would say that you just, as Halty said, not to trust the process. But I would say that if you go into it, you learn just like you go through any course, and you learn what they're putting out, and you adapt to what's already you. Be authentic. Be you. Right. The folks that come in for mock interviews or for the panels, they're not, they're coming, everyone has their own interest as well, right? They're canvassing talent. Like, let's not joke about that. Like, that's happening. So, and we stress that to the fellows, like, hey, look the part, be the part, use the skills and the things that you already have, be yourself, and everything's going to be good, and it's a walk, crawl, run kind of approach, the way that we do it through programs. But I think as long as you're being yourself, and you're using what you apply the techniques that you and your coach are working on, and the opportunities are there. Like I said in the beginning, you just keep your eyes open, and those people are coming here, they're sitting in, they're taking their time because they're looking for people like you. Both you just don't know it yet. Communicate.
No, that's awesome. No, that was a great answer. So I think that's almost, it's intimidating for people, but it's good to hear that they're getting that exposure and they're getting put in those scenarios, and just having the right mindset, I think, is a big part to it.
I've got two quick stories that really go well with what we're talking about right now. And one was like he's a 13-year enlisted guy, gets out, no degree, comes through THF. He knows he has a passion for tech. He just doesn't know like how to apply that, right? And he's a shooter. Like, he has no tech skills. He's not a code writer. He doesn't, he doesn't have a degree in engineering. Right now he's an alumni. He's been at Apple now for 2 years. He's a product manager and he's crushing it, right? He's still working on his degree in night school right now, so he can check that box and continue the upward trajectory of his career. But a 13-year guy, no degree at Apple, right? Just using the communication skills and the decision-making frameworks that we offer, right? The maybe the opposite side, or a far left or far right of that, however you want to look at it, is another gentleman, fully indoctrinated, 28, 30-year guy, right? Multiple degrees, all the things, really feels like he's accomplished what he can accomplish, has no idea what's next. Gets really frustrated, honestly, because we're asking him to tell stories and be a little bit vulnerable and do all these things. And he's getting, pretty close to the end of second phase, going into third phase. And spending more and more time with his coach, trying to figure it out. What is next? And so the coach, uses a little bit of coaching magic and figures out that this guy really enjoys NASCAR, really enjoys racing. So that gentleman right now, he's also a graduate and an alumni. He worked at Indianapolis Raceway for I believe like 4 or 5 years, and then took another opportunity at Skip Barber Racing. So he's been working in the race industry now for, I don't know, coming up on, 8 years or so. And those are just two stories of 1,127 alumni to date of really the different places you can go, right? To include the entrepreneurs who've started their own thing and are grinding right now. Some guys and gals who, went into, we've got an alumni at Harvard. I think we got 2 alumni at Harvard, one at Yale, one at Wharton, 1 or 2 at Wharton right now, one at Stanford. So the framework that we give you is applicable to regardless of the direction you want to go. And we even have guys in the trades, right? They're just like, I want to work with my hands, right? I want to make cabinets or whatever that is. And that's what they're doing, and they're loving it. So get it, go do that.
That's awesome. Now that's great to hear about the guy over at Apple. I think that's something too that kind of talked a little bit is here at SOM+C. We always try to tell our medics because we have all of these critical skills and we've done these things for so long, but we don't understand the value that like these companies, these Fortune 500s would use those skills for, right? So you got a medic who's managing patients and able to, he has the ability to learn quickly. That's sought after, highly sought after. And you can't teach a 20-year-old or 25-year-old or whatever that. It has to be learned through experience. And that's what operators and medics and they have already through their experience. So it's awesome that you guys are making those relationships and those connections. The other part, so I got one question about, how long is the cohort usually? How long is somebody going to be enrolled and go through this process? And then I got a question for Chris about our Camp Lejeune campus after that.
Yeah, so it's approximately 3 months, right? There's always some holidays in there, so we've got take a couple days off, and the way that rolls out is essentially 2 nights a week. It's either going to be a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday. All the in-person campuses right now, I believe, are all Tuesday, Thursday. The virtual campus is a Monday, Wednesday, and so twice a week. There are 1 or 2 where, the holiday throws a monkey wrench. So we might have to do like a 3-day week here and there, but predominantly 2 nights a week, 3 hours each of those nights. So 6 hours right up front. And then we ask you to get 1 hour with your coach a week. That's up to the 2 of you to make that fit into both your professional schedules. And then there's, it's not homework in the classical sense, right? This isn't an online school where you've got to post your post your answer to your question and then post 2 times to 2 other students, right? It's none of that. It's all in person, just like this. Although ironically, most of you are going to watch this on recording, but it's all going to be in person. So that means the interaction with the instructor is going to be in person. And so, and so it's not really homework in the sense, like I said, of like doing math or doing English or things like that, but it's really digging into yourself. And so that can be anywhere from maybe 30 minutes to maybe an hour and a half, top end a week. So, 6 hours of class, 1 hour with your coach, hour and a half. Plus, we're going to ask you to network, talk to other humans, go get dates with other men. So you can talk about business. And so that rounds out usually what I tell applicants is somewhere between 10 to 12 hours a week is the commitment we're asking for. Again, over about a 3-month duration.
Awesome. And then, so Chris, you now are director of the Camp Lejeune campus. You got anything to kind of throw out there and let those MARSOC Marines and sailors and over there know about?
Yeah, I mean, we have a campus that's down in Wilmington at the Blue Mine facility there. That's where our in-person cohort is going to be at during those 2 to 3 days a week, depending on the schedule. Right now, we're coupled with the virtual campus, so it's Mondays and Wednesdays, but there's a few days that are going to change. But in the future, it'll just be us, and we won't be coupled with another campus. So I would say that they need to get on honor.org and apply, and then we'll go from there. And when you're answering the questions, just be yourself. Answer them to the best of your ability with how you feel about that question at the time, and communicate early and often.
Awesome. And I guess kind of the last question here, guys, so we can kind of wrap up unless you got anything else is, so since we're, you have a San Diego campus, now we have a Camp Lejeune campus, you're talking about working with the Army over in Bragg. How is the command relationship and buy-in, and how are you working with some of the commands to help individuals? We talk about time frames, those 12 to 18 months. Well, it's really just, that's the standard DoD time frame, right? So some of us are on shorter time frames, some of us on longer time frames due to commitments. Is there some relationship you have with the commands in order to help facilitate that?
So given that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we don't take any DoD money, we can stand completely separate, and the best we can do is make recommendations, right? And we try and make recommendations for, especially, the young sailor, airman, Marine, soldier, to the commands, because we play on the heartstrings. Like, hey, brothers, you're going to transition here shortly too, and think about the amount of stress you're putting on all the young gentlemen, ladies below you, right, in the command. And we try and get those commanders on board by going and talking to them, right, doing the communication thing that we've been saying that we do here at THF. So I just got back a couple of weeks ago from going down to Florida and visiting 7th Group and headquarters AFSOC, and talking to the command level down there and letting them know what we do, how we do it, what the purpose of it is, and inviting them to join a cohort, right? We've had numerous 06s come through, and that's great buy-in, because then they start to push it down into commands. We've had one 07, lots of obviously E9s, E8s across the force. And then so once they've experienced it, they see the value, and they become, alumni proponents inside commands. Beyond that, we make recommendations and try and do our best for the force.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually heard about the Honor Foundation through my team commander. So he went through as he was getting out, and he recommended it. So I think that's actually really important to note, that if even the high ranking officers are getting something out of it, then obviously a sturdy enlisted can also get something out of it at the end of the day as well. So I think that's pretty interesting. That's awesome.
We got one of us at Apple, man. We're doing well.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, you guys got anything else before we wrap it up and end the recording here?
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, same here. I really do appreciate the opportunity. And I would say, that enlisted officer, we're making it kind of thing. When we take off the uniform, we're all just Mr. and Mrs. So I would encourage people not to limit themselves and to get in the program and see what's out there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. This has been great and an awesome resource. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel. Once we're done recording here, I'll try to get it up as soon as I can and go check it out. You want to drop the website again one more time, Mike?
honor.org/apply. If you want to reach out to me because you've got more questions, Michael G. Halterman on LinkedIn. Best way to get a hold of me. If you're I know most of you have some crazy social network handle that isn't your name. That's fine. But LinkedIn, at least I can vet who you are. But feel free to drop questions in there. But like Chris said, if you're getting close, just hit apply. You got nothing to lose.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. And yeah, thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.